Welcome! Those who don't know history are bound to repeat it. Knowledge of our legal system is the key to democracy and protecting your rights under the law. The courts are here to shield you against your rights being taken away by the government or others who would seek to destroy democracy and freedom. Understanding our legal system involves knowing how it works in everyday lives.
More than 200 years ago, the founders of our nation created a form of government that is now the model for the world, especially for those new democracies that have emerged in recent years. These new democracies recognize the genius behind the system of checks and balances we have been blessed for and with for so long. A fundamental part of this system, one that foreign leaders recognize as a masterstroke of government design, is the existence of a fair and impartial and independent judiciary.
Your rights are at stake. The third branch of government, the judiciary, is under attack today. Your fundamental rights are at stake in this attack. You need to know what those rights are and how to protect yourself. To protect yourself, you need to know some of the basics. This presentation is meant to help you refresh your recollection of what you were taught in school long ago, but may not have thought about over the years. The courthouse, the place where justice is done and the law is upheld. It is a place that all Americans should be proud of. Most nations of the world do not have a system of due process, equal rights for all, or even the right to judicial review of government action. We continue to be and exercise in democracy, one that was started back in 1776. For as long as our nation has existed, this separation of powers has worked to protect and defend our freedoms. Indeed, our progress as a free society often has been forged by a judiciary free from partisan politics, a judiciary acting on the basis of what is just, not just what is popular. An impartial judiciary is the cornerstone of our democracy, one of the guiding principles that sets us apart from other nations of the world. Where it all began. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Fundamental documents such as the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence provide the framework for the rules of democracy. Guessing as to what your rights are? Is this possible in a modern society? Are there governments where people are never sure as to what their legal rights might be from day to day? Recent history shows us that such governments exist, and they oppress millions of people throughout the world. Government keeps its promises, or does not keep them, in its courts. For the individual, therefore, the struggle for constitutional government is a struggle for good laws, indeed, but also for intelligent, independent, and impartial courts. As Americans, we know why our courts are so important. Freedom is a struggle. Democracy is a struggle. There are always different tugs and pulls on our laws, rules, and regulations. The job of our judges is to make sure that the basic fundamental documents of our republic are followed and adhered to, so that we are indeed a nation of laws and not of men, meaning the law is what it is and not what is popular at a given time. Government power and functions in the United States rest in three branches of government: the legislative, judicial, and executive. So we ask ourselves, what are these three branches and why are they important to me as an individual citizen? What is the function of the judicial branch? It is to guard the Constitution and protect individual rights. Courts as a shield against tyranny. Each individual citizen has the right to have his or her case decided impartially, under its own merits, under the law, without consideration of other influences. Both on an individual state and on the national level, the three branches of government are the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. On a state level, it is the legislature, the governor, and the judiciary, trial courts and appeal courts. On a national level, it is Congress, the President, and the federal appeal and trial courts. In this system of a separation of powers, each branch operates independently of the others. However, there are built-in checks and balances to prevent tyrannous concentration of power in any one branch and to protect the rights and liberties of citizens. For example, the President can veto bills approved by Congress. The President nominates individuals to serve in the federal judiciary. The Supreme Court can declare a law enacted by Congress or an action by the President to be unconstitutional, and Congress can impeach the President and federal court justices and judges. Each branch of government was created by the first three articles of the Constitution. Federal judges are given lifetime appointments, ensuring their independence. The framers wanted to protect judges from both the public and from the government in deciding cases, both while deliberating and after the decision was rendered. If you're upset with a judicial decision, you can appeal it to a higher court. If the Supreme Court holds against you, you can work to change a statute to address the flaws pointed out by the court, or you can work to amend the Constitution. This is what is being done with respect to flag burning. But you may not attack or threaten the judge himself or herself, and you must abide by the decision. How does the judicial branch operate within the system of checks and balances? Checks and balances, more than just a phrase, it is a theory of constitutional democracy that allows one branch to keep another branch from becoming too powerful. The court's job is to interpret laws and to find laws, both constitutional and unconstitutional. Whether in Tallahassee, Washington, Des Moines, or Sacramento, the fundamental laws of our land are all the same. This is one reason that we have been able to survive and flourish as a free society with so many different nationalities, religions, and the like. It does not matter what your personal makeup may be, all are equal under the law. Equal before the law, a concept that creates a strong bond and never-ending cycle of acceptance of the diversity in our ever-expanding country. Courts decide arguments about the meaning of laws, how they are applied, and whether they violate the Constitution. The latter power is known as judicial review, and it is this process that the judiciary uses to provide checks and balances on the legislative and executive branches. Judges are different from other public officials. They have no constituencies. They have to make their decisions based on the law, not on what is popular. Movement to weaken the courts. Some would like to see the power of our courts to protect individual rights weakened. Some would seek to deny a person their day in court. Accountability. Courts in Florida are accountable to the public. Circuit and county judges run for office every 6 years, subject to other candidates running against them. Appellate, local courts of appeal, and Supreme Court are subject to retention elections, keep or reject individual judges, every 6 years. People who are accountable will probably do a better job. The courts are accountable to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and not to politicians with an eye to the next election. This system of accountability has worked well for hundreds of years. There has always been a certain tension between what is popular, what is practical, and what is promised to generations. This struggle often causes one branch to seek greater power. As energy or power is neither created or destroyed, sometimes one branch or two seek to take some of the power from one or two of the other branches. Nature abhors a vacuum, but sometimes that giant sucking sound is not just air, but your rights, whizzing by with the other powers flowing out of one branch and into another branch. Question. Please tell me if you agree or disagree with the following statement. We need strong courts that are free from political influence.
I think the courts should be free from politics. It isn't a good mixture. The courts are here forever, but politicians come and go.
Strong courts lead to strong personal freedom within the bounds of the Constitution. What do we want from the judicial third branch of the government? Question. In your opinion, which one of the following is the most important quality for the court system? Guardian of constitutional rights, fair and impartial, independent from politics, accountable for their decisions.
The courts are the keepers, guardians of our constitutional rights. They need to be fair and impartial, free from politics, and accountable for their decisions.
Court decisions are published and subject to appeal to higher courts. Judges are accountable to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and ultimately to the people that they serve, not special interests or politicians. The legislature and the governor represent the people, and the judges represent the Constitution. That is where everything balances out. Americans want strong courts to protect individual rights and offer equal justice for all. How do we make sure that our courts are fair and accountable? Do you think courts and politics should mix?
Representatives are only in office for a short period of time. The Constitution has been around for hundreds of years. So let's go with something that's been around for a while, instead of people who just got into office.
It just seems like that was one of the main purposes of having the courts, as a part of the checks and balances. If you get the legislator telling them what they can and cannot do, then you lose that.
We need the courts to put some distance between our fundamental constitutional rights and those who would seek to limit or take them away. Courts uphold the Constitution and protect our rights. We depend on strong courts to uphold the Constitution, to rule on cases fairly and impartially, based on the facts and the law. Strong courts are an essential part of our democracy and provide vital balance in our government. Courts uphold the Constitution and protect our rights. We depend on strong courts to uphold the Constitution, to rule on cases fairly and impartially, based on facts and the law. Independent judiciary. What does it really mean? Fair and impartial courts, upholding the Constitution, free from influence from politicians, access to justice for all, protecting individual rights, checks and balances. What rights do you want to give up today if you had to?
I don't want to give up any rights. I have the right to free speech, the right to publicly assemble, bear arms, free from unreasonable search and seizure.
Some would seek to take away or limit your rights to free speech, your right to bear arms, your right to be justly compensated for the state's taking of your real property for public uses.
Courts are better than guns. I want my day in court. I want to be able to resolve disputes peacefully and safely without having to resort to violence.
How we resolve our disputes is a fundamental cornerstone of our democracy. We settle our social, personal, and political differences through our courts and not with violence. This is what has set us apart from hundreds of other countries and what makes our system one that is looked at by others with envy. The robe that a judge wears is meant to be a symbol of the impartiality of the law. Judges are here to represent the law and to be impartial decision makers. All work together for the common good. Florida, the Sunshine State. Do you think your rights are at stake today? Some of you are about to become a part of the system of justice. This is your courthouse, your system, but how do we protect it? The rule of law. You are the finders of fact to which the law is to be applied. Without you, the law is impotent. Should all people be equal before the law? Courts are the places to settle differences and resolve problems. Businesses rely on our courts. The nation's economic system depends on our fairness of dispute resolution to keep businesses going. What does freedom mean to you? Reject attempts to tamper with our court system.